So this lesson is on finding the unit price. So basically you might have a package of, I don't know, 5 chocolate bars that cost maybe $4.75. And what we're trying to do in this lesson is to find out, well, what would be the cost for 1 chocolate bar? What could that look like? So, and that's called unit price when you're finding it for one of the item only. You want the price for 1, not for 5. So basically, we can look at that as expressing it as a fraction, and usually the denominator will be 1. So you're looking at the cost per 1 item, basically, is what we're coming up with. So we can use a format and a method that you've seen possibly in other units where we use proportion. We can set up a proportion to essentially go ahead and solve to find the cost for 1 item. So one of those things that we have to be very considerate of when we do set up that proportion is, what do we put where? What values go where in our proportion? So we just have to make sure we're consistent on things. So in this particular example, we have at Mac's Corner Store, a box of 700 deck screws sell for $64.99. We want to find the unit price for the screws. So we basically want to know for 1 single screw what the cost of that would be. So in this instance, we're always going to put our dollar values on top because it's always cost per item, cost for 1, right? So we're going to put the dollar amount on top, and we're going to put items on the bottom. So if I put items on the bottom, that means right now, as it stands, and I'm not going to put my equal sign there, I'm going to set myself up a proportion, but always keeping my dollar figures on the top and however many items I have on the bottom. So in this case, when I look at this box of deck screws, they cost $64.99. And for how many of them? They cost $700. Or sorry, there are 700 screws. I'm going to set that equal to, because now what we're trying to find is, I want to know what the cost is for 1 of those screws. I don't know what it's going to cost. So if I'm thinking dollars over how many, and so if I set up then my proportion, I want to know how much for 1 of them. So in this aspect then, what I can do is I'm going to do my cross multiplying. So I'm going to have 700x is equal to $64.99. And I'm going to end up dividing both sides by 700. So $64.99 divided by 700 is going to tell me, okay, so now I'm going to get a decimal. So I've got 0.928. It keeps going. So you are finding, this is a unit price. So this is money now. So again, money is always 2 decimal places that we have to account for, but go to the third one. If it is 5 or larger, it's going to bump this one up. Since this is smaller than 5, this is going to stay as 0.09. This is 0.09. This is cents. Okay, so we can either put a little dollar symbol and go 0.09 like that to indicate that it's 9 cents per deck screw. Okay, so make sure you're putting your unit measures in there. So because we're dealing with unit price and that's what we're asked to find, we need to make sure we have a dollar symbol in there. Next, you're at Mac's Corner Store, and this time you have 5,000 sheets of printer paper sell for $49.99. We want to find out what the unit price is for 1 sheet of paper. So same thing, going to start with money on the top, and I'm going to start with items on the bottom. So I'm going to set up the same idea. So $49.99 is the cost for 5,000 sheets. But now I want to know the cost for 1 sheet. And I just put an X in there to represent that cost. So same thing, I'm going to do my cross multiplying. So I'm going to take the 5,000, that becomes 5,000x is equal to 49.99 times a 1. And I'm going to divide both sides by 5,000. And if I take 49.99 divided by 5,000, I get 0.0099. Okay, so now same thing, talking dollars and cents here. So 2 decimal places. Both of those decimal places are zeros, but I go to the third one, the third decimal place, to find out that it is larger than 5. So that means this is going to bump up by 1. So this means that I'm going to have 0.01, which means that each sheet of paper is 1 cent. Okay, so that's per sheet of paper. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you have to buy a case of 5,000, it starts to add up. Okay, let's look at the next one and the last one. Mac's Corner Store, there's a box of 12 muffins that sell for $6.95. We want to know the unit cost of a muffin. So same thing, unit cost, unit price, it all means the same thing. It's you're looking for 1, the cost of 1. So same thing, I'm going to set up my dollars over my number of items that I have. So in this case, for $6.95, I can buy 12 muffins, which I want to know for 1 muffin what the cost is. So again, we're going to cross multiply. So I'm going to have 12x is equal to $6.95. And I'm going to end up dividing both sides by 12. So $6.95 divided by 12 is going to give me 0.579. Okay, same thing again. We've got 2 decimal places, but because the third decimal place is larger than 5, that's going to bump this 7 up by 1. So this is going to be 0.58. So this means each muffin costs, okay. So each muffin is going to cost 58 cents. So again, don't forget, make sure you have your unit measures in there. Make sure you're accounting for knowing what your question had asked for, and you can always tell what kind of unit measures you need. You need cost, then you better have a dollar symbol in there of some sort. That's it. So now you can go ahead and go practice unit pricing.